everybody. Welcome to Roundtable Live for February 24th, 2017. I am Bear. There's Nick RockLeeSmile. There's Ryan Northernlion. And there's... Oh, wait a minute. Darn it. He got in here again. Who left the gate open and let Rob in the podcast? Damn it.
I'm going to eat all of your trash. It's going to be great. Yeah, I'm going to root around in there.
Actually, that weirdly works given your history in Ultimate Chicken Horse. Yeah, I like that.
Rack Attack, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Given your history.
Given your history.
Given your history of trash eating.
Of course, yeah. Big into that.
Welcome back, Rob, once again. AlpacaPatrol, honorary member of the Roundtable. Appreciate you being here, man.
Thanks for having me back. It's always a fun time.
It's going to be good. We got a lot of fun stuff to talk about this week, including Twitch Drops, new feature that Twitch has just unveiled for developers. We'll be talking more about that. We're going to harp on the Twitch streamer marathon mentality a little bit today. We've got some interesting takes on that. Also, Disney with some big news in the YouTube front, actually cutting out quite a few jobs from Maker Studios, along with severing ties with thousands of their creators. So really big news on the YouTube front. We're also going to talk about a few games this week. I got Bleed 2 on the docket, along with Hollow Knight, which just came out today, I think, didn't it? Yeah, this morning even.
Yes, just today.
And Oxygen Not Included, the new joint from Clay, currently in alpha, and we've gotten a chance to check it out, and it's awesome. We're going to talk about that quite a bit. Start off with, though, Twitch Drops. Brand new feature just announced this week, Twitch Drops. It is a new system wherein developers are going to be able to reward viewers via in-game, cosmetic items or in-game goodies, whatever they want to give away. But more or less, the system works by connecting accounts, I suppose, with whatever game service that you're going to use with this. For example, if you're high-res, you've got Paladins, so you can hook up your... They've got, like, separate accounts for that, don't they? I'm fairly certain high-res does their own account system for Smite. So I think that's how it works, is you hook those accounts up with your Twitch account, and then you will begin to accrue whatever measurement they have for your viewership, your retention on the stream, and you'll be rewarded for it. So this is in the very early phases right now. They're still giving it out to developers who will be beginning to integrate this into their games as time goes along. But for now, as I mentioned, Smite had early participation in it, and Twitch is reporting dramatic increases in both the total number of viewers and time spent per viewer since they implemented drops, which is understandable. If you've got an actual incentive to stick around, that certainly makes sense that you would. But overall impressions, just takeaways from this right out of the gate. You guys excited about it?
Yeah, it seems like a good thing. Generally, I think this kind of interactivity is really where Twitch is headed. I mean, I've heard people say that Twitch is kind of turn into more like a YouTube thing, where there's just dominated by a few basic personalities. But I think this is the other half of things, where there's a high degree of user interactivity and interconnectivity as well. And the one place where I think they might have been able to do this better, and I was kind of discussing this a little bit with Ryan before the show, is that they could have opened this up to be not just specifically geared towards software, but allowed a system or put in a back end for all streamers to have things that show up based on user retention. Whether that be game codes or T-shirts or other incentives like free subscriptions or other things you could pay for behind the scenes that you could give away to your audience, have those just show up as free drops for the people watching. And even the developers could get in on it in the same function then, because they'd be able to give away codes for promotional whatever they want to do. So I think the scope is off, but I think their heart's in the right place on it. Does that make more sense now, Ryan?
Sort of, but I'm still at the same point where I'm like, for a developer, this seems really good. Because, people are watching your game for free, and it costs you, nothing to make a shirt that is I'm a big Smite man. And then you give that away to, 100 people watching the show instantly because their accounts are already linked via Twitch. Yeah. So it just gets delivered instantly versus, this person won a T-shirt, now I've got to, solicit their address somehow, and then...
Well, that would all happen on the back end. They would, if they sign up for the service, they'd give their address, and it would already be handled by Twitch. So it would just facilitate the back stuff.
Where does the shirt come from, though?
So you would mail it to them.
But, they have to actually produce that as opposed to it being so much simpler to create a cosmetic item, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, though. I just, with digital goods, I get it. With physical goods, I don't fully understand, the value proposition, because I'm I don't want to give Twitch $1,000 and then be print up 70 shirts and give them out to
Right.
people. But
Well, it could automate the address coming to you essentially, and you would mail it yourself.
I think it could head in that direction too. I mean, depending on how successful the service is. I mean, Twitch has been. I mean, I showed you guys the Pulse thing that you guys apparently don't have.
can
that's
you
rolling out.
Describe that for those like me who have no idea what the hell it is.
So, well, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know. But on my main Twitch page, it's something I think is specifically for partners. So I don't know if anybody else is going to have it. But it might be. It might be a change up of your main page, and what it shows is updates from all the streamers you follow, right? Like their updates. They're it's almost like a Twitter, like for
it's
the
social
streams
media
you follow.
Twitch aggregation.
Basically, yeah. I kind of don't like it, but it's the beta, and you guys don't even have it, so it's probably not even rolled out on most places, but yeah, no, I have it. It's the same thing, and you can actually connect it to Twitter, is what I'm looking at now. But it's a new main page for Twitch, which actually goes back to what you were saying, of like how people have said that Twitch is going to be like YouTube, where it's like they're really going to focus on the big guys. I don't know, like Twitch feels to me like they really do a good job of not being too hardcore in that camp of focusing on just a few people up at the top, and instead rolling out features like the community thing. The community thing is good, and I think overall, like whether or not it's going to do anything in this regard, it is sort of trying to help with natural discovery, which has been a problem on YouTube and Twitch, both platforms forever. Like you've never really been able to get natural discovery to go super well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was mostly just saying not even that is the way it is, but that's like one of the options of how things could go, and that's how I think some people do see the future of Twitch. I prefer it more the way it actually is, which is sort of spread out amongst most of us. Yeah.
They do a good job in that way. And I don't know, I think this is overall, the Twitch drops is a good system overall. I mean, I think it furthers the kind of symbiotic relationship that I think people from our side have been saying for years about what it is like, this is a good thing, us streaming your games. And I think game developers and Twitch as a platform are now, with money, saying this is a symbiotic relationship.
Right.
Here's a way to increase engagement for both of us, So
absolutely,
I think it's cool.
Yeah, I think Twitch, thinking about just the last few years of Twitch's progression overall, they're really putting the foot to the gas, Like they're launching a lot of new features that are significant new features, especially over the course of the last year or so. Like, just think about Bits, obviously. That the entire existence of Bits is massive for quite a few streamers now. It's providing them a significant chunk of their revenue, and that didn't exist a little while ago. You got Twitch Prime, of course, which is extremely huge, been probably just as beneficial, if not more so. And now with this, like they are weirdly, like they're able to kind of spread themselves pretty thin and address everything that they want to improve. I'm surprised that they are continuing to do this. I'm not just trying to jerk them off, but like they're doing a good job with quite a few of these different things. And this is another really good feature that doesn't really have a lot of drawbacks as far as I can tell. So just a little bit of kudos to them, I guess, because this is stuff that really a lot of people have been asking for, and they're beginning to come through with it. So I'm pretty excited about that.
It's also opt-in, I believe. So if you just don't like the idea of it, there's not even a drawback for you either. You just not do it.
Yeah.
I think this is forgive me to generalize everyone else, like watching and stuff, but like I think from the outside perspective, content people, creators, whatever the hell you want to call us, we always
influencers.
Look like right?
Official term, please.
Yeah. It always seems like we're whining and complaining about YouTube and how it's the end of the world and everything. And while that is mostly true, it does go to show that like Twitch does a really great job. I think all of us are pretty like 90%, 95% happy with all of the things that Twitch rolls out.
I'm waiting
like
for it to fuck us,
89%.
Yeah, that's really high compared to YouTube, where it's just like, 10% maybe.
You know something
all right.
awful is just coming down the pipeline, though. They've been building up all this goodwill. One of these days, they're just gonna bend us over. Something's gonna happen.
No, it already happened. It was the Content ID rollout followed by the Amazon purchase like 3 years ago.
That's right. That was the end of
people were
days.
like, "This is the end of Twitch."
That was switch over to Hitbox time. I remember.
And it was the end of Twitch.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, but like you guys forget about that time when
Replaced by
like
automatons now.
when
Sorry,
the whole site went down for like an hour. That was like a big problem for everyone.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That happens from time to time too, but you know.
What is like the? Maybe not, never mind. I was gonna say what's the worst thing they've done. That's probably not a good idea to try to just dive down that rabbit hole. So never mind.
The worst things they've done, I don't want to talk about in public anyway.
That makes it sound terrible.
Oh yeah, I
they
can
execute somebody like behind closed doors or
I
something.
didn't realize those
evil,
Twitch parties were getting a little out of hand, man. Shit.
Well, there's like for all the partners, we have the private streaming service that.
Right, I remember. Yeah, but don't talk about that one. That's.
Yeah, oh, you're breaking up. I could. What's that
Hush,
sound?
hush. All right. Let's keep the focus on Twitch here, though, and kind of turn on a dime as far as the mood goes, unfortunately. So this next conversation is being brought up because of unfortunate circumstances. There was a death on, a streamer was doing a 24-hour Twitch marathon this week, and unfortunately passed away during it. And now it's not really confirmed or even good to speculate whether or not the marathon itself was the cause, and we really don't want to dwell on this too much. Suffice to say that it's terrible, and condolences to the family and best wishes to all of them. However, we do want to talk about this topic, which is marathon streaming. And this has been something that is just pervasive on Twitch. It's not like it's an epidemic, but it is, it's sort of expected to a certain extent that streamers will be able to put on these marathon shows to go for 12 or 24 hours at a time, whether it be for charity or whether it be to try to raise funding to go on some trip or something like that. It happens all the time. And I don't know, like I don't want to take the moral high ground or anything, but at the same time, having done one myself and knowing the effects of them, and I know you guys in this call are very familiar with long streams, having participated in Jay Smith's ridiculous 52-hour marathon. So again, we're not, there's no pillar we're standing on here. This is simply an observational discussion, but it's something that I think we may just have to try to pull the reins back on a little bit, because this sort of stuff, it's heavy when stuff like this happens, especially, and to lessen the likelihood of that, I suppose we should put it in a darker light, because it deserves to be in one. It is bad for your health. It is bad for you just in general. The way it affects you is it's not just your lack of sleep, but it's kind of a mental thing. In addition to the burnout of just streaming in general, these marathon streams are just not a good idea.
The culture, I think, does need to change a little bit. It's been a forever falling bar in the respect that, well, if this is your job and nobody has to tell you to clock out and you're doing a fun thing, playing games, hanging out with your friends, like, why would that ever need to end in your mind? Like, in some ways, this is helping you in every way except your health. So the propensity to stay there and just keep doing it is very great, and it becomes a compulsion for people. The other thing is the competitiveness from one streamer to another has driven this bar very, very low, to the extent that people feel very obligated, in fact, to stay online for hours and hours, which has resulted in a lot of bad health issues. We're talking about the long-term viability of this as a job. Like, if you plan to do this, you've got to think long-term, not short-term. So what is this going to do to us in the long-term scheme of things if we do this for 15 years?
Broman's...
If the idea is that you have to do this kind of thing all the time, that's not healthy.
Broman's article about this, I know I mentioned this in brief a couple weeks ago. He's talking about the burnout that is basically inevitable when you put yourself in a position like that. And you're right, Nick, that I think the competitiveness on Twitch, especially if you're just starting out, in 2017, starting out as a Twitch streamer, I think the mentality is I need to go at this every spare moment I have.
Yes.
And they're probably not wrong, is the thing. Because it's almost necessary. You if you want to become successful, you obviously benefit from putting yourself out there as much as you possibly can. And while, I mean, it's hard to argue against working hard, but at the same time, I think there's just an issue of balance that needs to be struck for everyone, and you need to sort of recognize within yourself, like, hey, I probably cannot physically or mentally maintain this lifestyle, and it's time to acknowledge that.
I think, there's been, this is probably the most extreme case of it, obviously. But it's not, the first time that people have marathoned themselves into poor health. And it is, it's happened to a lot of people on Twitch, and it does sort of, it is sort of one of those things where it's sort of self-defeating, right? Because, people do the marathon streams because it kind of, for lack of a better way to phrase it, it does put food on the table, and at the same time, it is fun. So there's a lot of elements to it. There is also something to be said of, like, if you don't have consistency, if you're not streaming all the time as a streamer or as a YouTuber, if you're not putting out videos every day, right? People leave, and you can't blame them. But in such a highly competitive field, it kind of does sort of become almost necessary at some points.
Yeah.
Personally, I used to have a scheduled stream, and in addition to, there have been several times that I've burned myself out before. One of them was like when I was putting out like 7 videos a day, streaming a bunch of times a week. Yeah,
I remember
it burned me out, dude. Like after 3-4 months, I was just like, I just couldn't do it. I was just dead, man. Yeah. But now I've recently switched to a more like lax streaming schedule where I'm just sort of like, if I have the ability to stream, I'll stream. I stream pretty much every day. I did miss my stream today, but
but you're here, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. So, but yeah, that's the thing. Like, I did that for me personally, for my own mental health, so that I can keep streaming without burning myself out. And I know that there are some streams that just straight up do marathon streams as sort of like a job, like that's what they do. They're just streaming for 10-12 hours a night, and it's insane, But I don't know how they don't get burned out.
Yeah, there's folks whose existence is Twitch, and another part of the article that was mentioned is the fact that the IRL category has created or removed a lot of your excuses for not wanting to broadcast. I think a lot of these full-time streamers, I kind of let myself in with them, and I'm not really a full-time streamer anymore, to be honest, but like you can certainly get into the mentality of once you go offline, it just kind of begins to creep on you. The longer you're offline, the feeling of dread of when do I need to get back on and begin to do my job again, just like it builds more and more and
it's
more.
all going to end. They're all going to leave. No one's coming back.
You're being dramatic saying it that way, but that is actually like a real fear that people have, and 100%. They stop seeing the logic in it after a while because it gets so compulsive. You just want to be making things happen. You want to be furthering your career in this. Mm-hmm. So yeah, ultimately that's the problem. Is not that things need to be banned or there need to be rules, but the culture needs to change a little bit in such a way as to prioritize people's own health over this idea that you're going to lose all your viewership immediately when you're not streaming.
Yeah.
But the question is can it? Because that's the kind of change that has to come from like the viewer side, and you can't really blame the viewer. Like if you don't stream for like a week, people are gonna unsub, and I can't blame them. I can't fault them. You're not streaming.
You got to think about subscribers differently, though, because it's not that they're unsub, but it's they're not unsubbing, they're not resubbing. And there's a difference between those things. They're not actively saying, I don't want to subscribe to you. You just weren't there at the time. And And
Fair,
that doesn't
yeah.
mean you miss them. It means that they might be along on the next thing.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think a
Well-
lot of it is just differences in changing your thinking about how this affects you and how you need to react to it.
This is such an interesting. Sorry, go ahead. I want to hear your thoughts, Ryan.
Well, it's a complicated issue for a couple of reasons. I think you guys touched on it. Things that resonate with my opinion. One of which is that the idea that Twitch is a great job, which it is. So if you do 5 hours, there's a dude behind you who's hungrier than you are that's going to do 6, and then there's a dude behind him that's like, I'll do 16 every day. Like they'll do whatever it takes, right? So there is a lot of pressure. And it's not just true about Twitch. Like that's true in a lot of jobs, I think. Like the same is true in software development, where you're like people who want to work in the games industry, they're like, I'll take a $30,000 a year salary cut to make video games. Like that's my dream come true. And this sort of like race to the bottom can result in kind of an unhealthy environment like this. Another thing that I think matters here is that the vast majority of Twitch streamers are like under 30, many of them under 25. And like when you're younger, it's a lot, you have less responsibility most of the time. Like if you don't have kids and you're not married and, you know, nobody in your family has like major health concerns they need to be taken care of or stuff like that, like to do 12 hours a day is not that big of a deal. You do 12 hours a day, play Dota 4 hours a day, sleep for 8 hours a day. You know, it's an easy life. But the older you get and the more responsibilities you take on, I feel like we're going to see that in like 4 or 5 years maybe, or well, we're going to see it gradually, I think, where streamers are like, they started doing this, they got big on this schedule that's unsustainable once you start to like fade into an adult life a little bit more, and it's going to be tough to transition the other way. I also think that the health concerns of like working 12 hours a day, 5 days, or 7 days a week in many times, doesn't necessarily manifest itself until you're like in your 30s, and then like your back's all fucked up and you're 80 pounds overweight because you sit all day, and then like these things manifest themselves later. They don't always manifest themselves right away. And there is personal responsibility, but the less free time you have daily, the less you're going to be able to handle that. So I think that's a big part of it. But also at the same time, I think streamers have to like kind of accept that. Like there are streamers who they malign, or what am I trying to say? They bellyache a little bit about like streaming culture and being forced to like stream a lot, or feel like they're forced to stream a lot, and then they do streams where they like get blackout drunk all the time, and like you're like propagating it as well with your own actions, which in the end, you have to be self-interested to make money to do it, but at the same time, like you're falling victim to it and also helping to propagate it in the future here. So I don't know. It's complicated, but I as always, I advocate for like a little bit of personal responsibility, and the idea that like, hey, maybe you should just take like another day off, and if that cuts into your income, then that sucks, but maybe it would be better to just get a more stable job.
Yeah.
And then you'd actually have like your downtime separated from your work time.
It's such an interesting medium still, because think about like when you go to see a movie, you've kind of made not just a financial investment, but just sort of a mental investment of like, I'm probably going to sit here and watch this whole thing regardless of, well, unless it's like absolutely awful, I might get up and walk out, but I'm probably going to sit here and watch this whole movie. Whereas when you sit down on your computer and you pull up a Twitch stream, if the streamer goes to the bathroom, you've got a pretty good chance that you're going to get distracted and be like, what else is going on the internet? And that's a totally normal thing. And it's what happens to Twitch streamers. When you leave for 2 to 3 minutes at a time, you're going to lose a chunk of your audience. Or if you take like a bigger break, if you go to eat dinner or something, you're probably going to lose half of them. That's just sort of how it is. And when you're a full-time streamer, you're constantly harping over your numbers, or at least I assume quite a few of them are, unless you're in a position where you're fortunate enough to not really have to worry too much about the month to month. But most streamers, I assume, are obsessive over that, and I think that you just kind of have to get to a point where if you're doing this full time, you can't do that anymore, And I've done my best to more or less stop paying attention to the day by day, you know, like the Monday to Tuesday stats, you know, or like the what did this revenue look like compared to this revenue. I'm more focused now on like, am I doing okay? I'm good? Okay, cool. Keep working. Like that's more or less my mentality now, and I'm lucky to be in a position where I don't have to worry too much about the, you know, whether I'm going to be able to pay the bills. So I like it's because I'm in that position, it's easier for me to recommend that, but at the same time, like when you're a full-time Twitch streamer, I really think it's unhealthy to be so focused on that, despite the fact that it is to some extent necessary.
I guess it's a transitional thing. Like, at what point is it not necessary anymore to obsess and more deleterious to your health?
Yeah.
We all sort of did a grind for a while where we were just pushing out as much as we could as long as our bodies would support it, and then we reached a point where I think it was sort of unsustainable. At least that's what I felt. And then I kind of scaled things back a little bit, and now I look at numbers way less, but I have the huge, fortunate, option of knowing that people are here month to month.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you're starting out, you don't really have that backup. And like what Ryan was saying about, well, if you can't really, like, if you're hurting your health, you should get a more stable job. Like, I agree, but there is a point where you do have to grind for a while until you sort of make it and you're more stable. So, like, I don't know where that transition starts and ends for different people and for different circumstances, and I guess it depends on how much money you need to make a month to be sustainable.
And some people may never hit that threshold, you know? Like, it's
like 99%.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
So it's
never hit that threshold.
It's certainly not like, I don't know. Maybe Ryan's onto something in that.
I want to butt in quickly to avoid the. I mean, basically, what I said in short was, well, if you don't like it, get a different job. And I didn't mean it to come across that way, even though the soundbite I think does.
Oh. Yeah. No, you're right, though. There is a point where it is bad for your health, and you should look at something else. But I don't know where that point is. That's all.
All I'm suggesting is that, I mean, there's two things here, I guess. One is that Twitch can't stop it. I mean, what do they do for, like, self-harm right now? In the terms of service, it's like you can't stream anything that is, like, overly deleterious to your health. Like, you can't do streams long enough that it becomes self-harm. You can't, drink so much that it becomes self-harm. So there's an intentionally, like, fuzzy logic there that basically leaves them protected in pretty much any situation. So there's no way Twitch is going to be like, well, if you stream for more than 12 hours, you've got to get, like, admin approval or something like that. So if everybody is still going to have this pressure on, I do think you have to look at it from the perspective of, well, even when I get to the top, like, there's going to be this precedent for having done this. So I have to continue doing it, or people are going to start to, like, bleed out. And then you decide, maybe, is it worth it? Honestly, like, being a big partner on Twitch is awesome. It provides you a lot of freedom that a lot of jobs don't have, and connection with an audience that directly supports you, which is awesome. But there are benefits to having a more stable career as well. And one of them is that you're on the clock, 8 to 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then you're off. You get, paid vacation time, benefits, career prospects that aren't dependent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think there is a case we made that on Twitch, like, I don't know, when we're like 45, are people still going to want to watch us as much as they do when we're like in our mid to late 20s or the early 30s here? Like, I feel like the prospects, there's a lot of instability inherent in this job, even when you quote unquote make it. So, this is just part of, like, it's part of being in the industry.
Like, realistically, I don't know how many of us expect to be doing this in 10 years, Like, I
at least not in
know.
the exact same way.
Right.
Yeah,
like, we're not going to be streaming video games every day in 10 years. That's sort of what I expect, is things will have drastically changed by that point, but I really just have no idea.
I think, like, to your point, Ryan, like, I understand where you're coming from, where it sounded that way, but I didn't really take it as, like, a patrician talking to a plebeian. But I mean, I did, like part of taking the plunge into doing this, if you're trying to do it as your sole profession, is you do have to understand that it is a double-edged sword. For the same reasons that you like the job are the same reasons that make it difficult in a lot of times, which is you be your own boss, you make your own hours and stuff, and in a lot of ways that can be a difficult thing to manage on your own. And I think that kind of thing leads to exactly what we're talking about, where people are overworking themselves sometimes, because it doesn't. I mean, and admittedly, yes, it's a dream job, right? But a job is still a job at the end of the day, and people can overwork themselves even in doing this, even though it seems like it's like incredibly easy, and it is compared to like most other things. But even in this, you can overwork yourself, you know, and and because of how competitive it is, you do kind of have to ride that line at all times. So, you know,
it's a different kind of work, whereas it's not so much about physical exhaustion as managing your mental health and managing your physical health and knowing when to set your own boundaries for yourself. So it requires a certain different type of self-discipline, knowing that you're never off the clock and there's always people you could be talking to. There's always social media that's updating. Like, you have to set those boundaries for your own self.
When I was in the theater, I used to when you do a stage play, you will only be on stage for like, you know, an hour or 2 hours, depending on your part, even less. But after you're done, you are fucking dead. You're exhausted. And there is a mental exhaustion that can happen in addition to a physical one. Like, I've been more wiped out from a play than I have from like a whole day of physical exertion, you know, lugging boxes around and shit, you know. Right. So it happens both ways.
And sorry, I didn't mean to imply that there are no psychological ramifications to working like a stable 9-to-5 job, because there definitely are there too. This is just, it never ends is the thing here. So you've got to set those boundaries for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're not going to be able to, you know, adequately compare job by job of who's got it harder. That's not what we're really aiming to do.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's different.
Yeah.
That's all.
There's just different challenges. And I echo that sentiment, and I'll also add the caveat that this is a dream job, absolutely, but I echo the sentiment that there is a different sort of stress associated with it, especially considering, like, thinking about the comfort that is inherent in being able to, when you're on a 9-to-5, generally you're able to, like, call in and be like, hey, I probably can't come in today, I'm sick, or hey, could you get so-and-so to take my shift because I need to do this thing. Like, you are it when you're doing this thing. Like, if you're a full-time Twitch streamer, nothing's happening unless you're doing it. It's all stagnant until you begin to push it again. So, like, with that constantly weighing on your mind, it does become a little strenuous over time. Mm-hmm. But again, it is
at the same time, because I can't simply complain without reflecting it back in a self-aware sort of fashion.
Yeah.
A lot of streamers, in my opinion, and this is not slighting them because they made a conscious decision to do this that sometimes works out for them and sometimes annoys them. But, you know, I think there's an allure to fame. Let's put it that way. And I think that, you know, especially when you're first starting out, there's a lot of novelty of like, hey, people like care about my opinion and want to hang out with me at all times. And it's very easy to just be in this position where you're saying, let's watch a movie tonight. Here's my stream, you know, walking around this Barnes and Noble. And it's very hard to come back from that and just go, whoa, hey, now Twitch is like, they've got a lot of demands for me. Everybody wants my time now.
Right. When
you took the step and sort of did it to yourself to begin with. So I think we've all gone down this road and stepped back a little bit where we bit off a little bit more than we can chew. Maybe we were flattered by the fact that people, you know, wanted to hang out with us, and then you go, oh, that's too much. And then it is harder to pull back from that than it is to take a step forward in that direction as well. So
100%.
It's just, you reap what you sow, I guess, to some extent. I wish that on Twitch there was less of a culture of marathon streams. But there's a lot of Twitch culture that at least irks me a little bit, although I think it's largely relatively okay. There are streams that or streaming themes, if you will, that I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of, and I think do border on self-harm. But that's to some extent still the right of the streamer to do it, I guess. And maybe never pay for it, or maybe pay with their health in 5 or 10 years or something like that.
Think about those Twitch terms of service. It's written like, we are not responsible once it's visually confirmed that you've done enough to fuck your body up in some way. At that point, that's when we're off the hook.
Yeah, no, I don't feel like Twitch should be responsible either.
No, not at all.
I don't either. Especially since we're just contractors at the end of the day.
Yeah.
We're not actually employees. So they still let us make our own hours and whatnot. And I also wanted to mention, like this is sort of in the entertainment field, not dissimilar to radio or talk shows or anybody else who does stuff like that. And this kind of thing isn't uncommon in those fields either, So it kind of comes with the territory a little bit. And that's, I'm not trying to like acquiesce and say like that makes it all okay, but I mean, you kind of you roll with the punches in this industry,
Yeah.
And you kind of have to ride that line of like, am I gonna die if I keep doing this, or will I also die because I can't, keep buy groceries? This is a little bit of both. So you kind of you ride that line at all times, and it's not so dire either. I make it sound that way, but I don't know.
Indeed. All right.
Yeah.
That'll do. That'll do, pig. Let's move on.
That'll do.
Yes, let's move on to Disney. Cutting ties with Maker
So
Studios.
start with some good news. Then this dude died on Twitch. Now a few dozen people losing their jobs.
Then we're going to talk about good video games, though. So it'll all
That's
kinda
true, yeah.
round itself out in the end.
Did you guys hear about that terrible disaster in Sweden?
Come on.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry, go on.
Moment of silence.
All right. Heard some Disney news last week, of course, with the whole PewDiePie scandal. But now there's a bigger take from it all, as Disney is cutting about 80 jobs in their digital media unit, some of which are Maker Studios related. So if you're not familiar, Maker is one of the bigger multi-channel networks on YouTube. They house such talent as Epic Rap Battles of History and PewDiePie, along with a few people we know. Rob, I believe, for example, is on the Maker Studios network. So there we go. They will be, as we mentioned, laying off about 80 employees, along with cutting ties with, it seems like, about 60,000 people. So it's pretty fucking big. Disney is looking to reduce its amount of partners under its umbrella from that about 60,000 to about 1,000 or so people, most of which it's safe to assume are managed channels already and have built a rapport with either Maker or Disney in the past. They're mostly doing this to the terminology is that they're looking to find folks that will be more in line with their family-friendly branding. And the first question this brings to my mind is, it took like 3 years for this to happen. I wonder if this has been something that they've been planning on doing for a long time.
Or maybe they had no concept that their brand could be tied to,
Do you think
the word Nazi when they bought Maker Studios.
Okay,
I do though. I think it would be easy to say that those two are like the main correlation, but I don't think that it is, because so like the reason we're all still networked, right? Like we're all still on networks.
Yeah.
Every one of us here. Okay. But like part of the reason that we were on networks is because, the way it used to work is that if you wanted to monetize your video, you would have to wait through Google's AdSense to monetize your video until like a day after, and by then you're getting like 20% of the views, of which you're only getting 30% of the viewers ad revenue, because most of them ad block, and then you're taking cuts from YouTube as well. So like part of the reason that you were on those networks is because of that. But like about a little less than a year ago, YouTube switched it around so you can monetize instantly now. So that's why we've been seeing a lot of these the networks offering like these 100-0, 90-10 splits, because they quickly are just becoming completely obsolete. Like they just they already were just taking a cut of the money for basically no benefit other than getting around YouTube's silly system. But now that you can instantly monetize your own videos, there's kind of no reason to be in a network anymore. And I'd have to expect that maybe that's part of the whole thing with Disney and Maker and all this. I would think anyway, because I would imagine that people are deciding to terminate their contracts with these networks because now they're just taking 30%. And you're not even getting the one benefit that they were offering in the first place. You know?
Well, I also feel like we're like post Gold Rush. I mean, if this whole show is just going to be like inside baseball for like YouTube and Twitch, I guess here we go. But like, you know, like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it was the Gold Rush. People were like 10 people were making money on video game videos on YouTube. And then YouTube opened it up and they're like, okay, everybody with a network can now make money with videos on YouTube. And then it became everybody is now making money with videos on YouTube. Yeah. So we're at this point where like 4 years ago, people were just aggressively trying to get people into their network because basically every person that you signed up, you were getting 40% or sometimes even 50% of another person's ad revenue for providing a basic service that really costs you like nothing. But it reminds me of the Zynga situation, basically, where, you know, they had Farmville that hit huge and, you know, a couple of other games that hit huge. And then they're like, well, this game did really well, made like $1 billion. What if we multiplied our staff size by 20? So all of these networks have, like, over the past few years, many of them have already gone through the process of cutting down and no longer exist in the same format they used to, but they ballooned up to like dozens or, you know, hundreds of staff. And now we're post Gold Rush. I think advertisers, judging by CPMs, they're starting to realize that like not a lot of people watch ads and like buy products as influenced by the ads, especially if, you know, in the games industry, there's you know, a younger audience. So like less money is coming in. Brand deals are more important, but it's kind of like a race to the bottom in that regard, similar to what we were talking about earlier. And, you know, if you work at a network, you got to panic a little bit that the growth that they had a few years ago is not sustainable anymore. So maybe it's just a convenient excuse to prune content or content creators down to a size that is sellable to marketers for things like brand deals, which probably bring in most of the money. And then I guess just move on from there and, you know, cut your losses.
A lot of bigwigs have left Maker too, right? Recently, I mean, I know a few of them went under PewDiePie's new network, actually, coincidentally.
Yeah, with Revel Mode, I've always wondered really how that's working because you had to assume that it was under the Maker umbrella somehow. Because it is an MCN, right? So he's operating an MCN while underneath another MCN, but I guess now he's not because they cut him. But
right, yeah,
that's really, really strange to me.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how it's working, but yeah, I don't know. It's more of a. I think it is. Basically, my whole point of even bringing this up was that I don't think it's directly, even though people want it to be. I don't think it's directly tied to the big controversial thing recently. As maybe a bit, but not entirely. You know what I'm saying? The them cutting ties with a bunch of things. I mean, I'm probably one of them. I don't know. My network never talks to me, so I couldn't tell you if I'm getting cut or not. But I probably am. Honestly, like they took a cut of my money. They didn't really do anything, and the only thing that I really got from it is it was pretty cool seeing in my checking account, like, Disney just paid you this much money. Like, that was pretty cool. I was like, oh, yeah, I gotta work for Disney. That's kind of cool. Yeah. But, yeah, beyond that,
It's so funny the nature of how networks have changed from being the most viable to the least viable path over the course of us being on YouTube. Because for a while it was like Machinima and the Game Station were the two ways that you make money on YouTube. And then, like, little ones popped up, and then they've kind of splintered off, and then there was, like, TGN, which I think is still existing now.
That's me, baby.
I bet with TGN.
Yeah.
But the thing that kind of came out was that they all sort of ended up having shitty business practices in one way or another. They either, like, didn't pay people, or they didn't provide any service while still taking a huge cut of your monetization. And now we're at that point where it's like, okay, we've kind of just skipped over that. So like Rob said, what is the point of networks anymore? Yeah. And I guess if there is a point, it's to sort of reinvent the way that brands interact with advertisers, which is not, I think, why they got into the business originally. They wanted the quick, easy money to just come and grab stuff.
The benefit of being with a network is it's a weirdly like double-edged sword, because if you're big, you're giving more revenue, although a smaller percentage to a network. But it also means that you don't have to employ someone to get you brand deals, basically. So, you know, like Columbia Pictures might come to your network and say, you know, we got a new movie coming out. You want to come down here and play like H1Z1, and it'll be sponsored by the movie? And you're like, well, maybe, I don't know. And
it's a real thing, though. It sounds so fucking weird, but they do that.
Yeah, I mean,
there's the hydraulic press thing
true.
the other day. Did you guys see that? The
No,
hydraulic press channel. They did. They actually did. It was a really cute sponsored deal with for Logan, where the hydraulic press channel tried to hydraulic press adamantium.
For Logan, yeah.
I like that.
It's cute.
That's cute. Yeah.
But I'm curious about that though too, because like I want to know, like, is he under a network? I want to why would, because remember, one of the reasons that we all got into networks back in the day too, one of those reasons was YouTube back in the day was kind of off and on about gaming content and whether or not you're going to get copyright striked, and that's why the network was there to kind of be a buffer zone protecting you.
I remember that being like the primary factor for me, was like, I'm going to get
that and CPM,
copyright striked all day long if I don't get on a network right now.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I wonder, like, is he on a network? He can't. Like, there's no reason that he would be on a network, right? So did that deal go directly to his channel? Like, did they contact him or something? Because then at the same time,
him a YouTube message.
Yeah, well, maybe.
Oh God.
That's the question, right? Because like, if maybe that's what's happening. Maybe these sponsors are just kind of cutting out the middleman now and just being like, hey, you want to do the deal? Like, why would you need the network in that place either if they're just going to go directly to the source, you know?
Well, Maker being owned by, I mean, I agree with you. A lot of like sponsored content just comes into the business inbox technically, but Disney owning Maker, the theory was like, hey, we got like Star Wars is coming out. Be pretty fucking sick if
JonTron
paid me to do Star Wars stuff. Yeah, exactly. Or WB owns Machinima now, so you're like, oh, maybe when the next when Suicide Squad 2 comes out or something, we're gonna have like a huge budget to promote it with native advertising or something like that. But most of the time, it doesn't seem to manifest like that.
Yeah.
There was also the fact that certain networks had access to higher CPM ads, which I don't really know like to what degree that's still a factor anymore, because nobody really talks about it as much. It just kind of is what it is. And then there's the whole managed channel thing, which has also sort of gone away, because we were really worried for a while that if you weren't a managed channel, that you would be open to all of the persecution that YouTube's automated system might put you into.
Yeah,
they basically would just do waves and match videos out of nowhere. And if you were a managed channel, you weren't part of that. You would just go past the waves.
That was another one of those the sky is falling moments when managed channels were announced, and everyone's like, well, everybody's not managed is going to get fucked. Yeah. It's all over.
Like you've got the real YouTubers and then everyone else trying to be a real YouTuber, and the real YouTubers were whoever the networks decided they were and gave managed status, basically saying they would vouch for you if there was a content ID match strike issue, whereas everyone else was on their own to figure it out. And that was the holy grail for me of like, I need to be a managed channel or I'm going to get screwed.
Yeah.
And I don't really care anymore.
So,
I mean, so go ahead.
Well, to play devil's advocate a bit, I am really wondering, I don't think I want to get off my network right now, because I still believe that they are behind the scenes, whether they're actively doing it or not is kind of the question, but I think that the systems in place kind of just allow you to exist a lot more comfortably on YouTube with a network in tow. You know what I mean? Like, there's still so much risk in my mind of, if I take them off, am I going to see a bunch of strikes come up? Am I going to see my monetization be removed from a string of my videos for no reason? And I don't have someone, at least like a first line of defense to go talk to or email if that happens. Yeah. The network at least provides me a security blanket. It
provides us a great placebo effect.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. For whatever.
I guess the thing with this story is that like not to ruin the show, but like nobody cares about like our problems to this minor extent, because it's not even a problem. It's just like later this could be a problem.
Yeah,
I think the bigger story in the take home is the idea that, you know, I mean, hundreds or at least dozens of people that actually were employed at Maker could lose their jobs as a result of this, which is a super bummer, and it is indicative of the fact that, you know, it's not the gold rush anymore for YouTube. You know, I think this is kind of a sign that when you have a network that's like, ooh, we made a mistake, we need to downsize in a big way, it's like the first sign that maybe the industry has kind of reached maturity. And it's interesting, I guess, to see where things will go from here, because we're pretty much, I mean, we're there, I guess.
Yeah.
There's not much. People keep saying, like, there's only room to go up, but, I mean, I don't think that's true. I think we're there. And it could stay here forever. I have no idea, but you know, I think we're at that point where it's a mature industry.
What you're describing just like the entire landscape of YouTube as far as our potential is concerned, or are you? Yeah,
I mean, I think people, they don't understand that you have, like, you know, YouTubers are being contracted to be on TV shows, and, you know, YouTubers are making their own movies that they're getting, you know, like tons of money from Netflix to make, and I think the industry is there. I think we got bigger than we should have got faster, at least from an ecosystem standpoint, and now it's correcting down a little bit.
You're saying like legitimized to a certain extent, or?
I don't like that term, because I think it's been a legitimate business for a long time.
Yeah.
It's reached an equilibrium to a larger extent, faster than I think we expected.
Yeah.
I think part of that, though, too, is, like, in speaking to that, like, I think I mostly agree with you that I don't think that there's much of a higher platform to go with the type of content that is produced on a regular basis on Twitch and YouTube and stuff, which is, like, low production quality content for the most part, right? But the one thing that I do want to say is that, like, all of media is sort of in flux, you know, like right now, I mean, there's still sort of that tug of war between television and, you know, new media, internet, Netflix and stuff like that. HBO trying to become Netflix trying to become HBO, like a little back and forth, you know,
a la carte cable.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So like all of that, because it's all in flux, and because YouTube and Twitch and this type of content is in the middle of it, things are still going to change. But yeah, I mostly agree with you with what you're saying. And to your point, actually, about the people getting laid off, one of the things that is kind of also doubly sad about that is I think Maker is much like Twitch in that they hire from within. So like most of the people that were working there, as far as I know, were former YouTubers who decided to go and work in a more stable environment, and now they're getting laid off. And you know, I don't know, that sucks. Like that's got to blow, you know.
Yeah.
So
it is.
But
it is unfortunate. But
yeah,
I think that I think the primary takeaway here, Ryan, you're right, is that like the MCN gold rush, I like that terminology too, is more or less fading away, and we'll probably see. I think there's a few that are like they're gonna be good, you know, like they've established themselves with high enough profile talent and didn't necessarily just go for the bottom feeder approach of signing as many 10,000 subscriber channels as they could in this period of time. You know, like they're pretty well set up, but I think we're gonna see a lot of the smaller ones, a lot of the freedom networks that email you 4 times a week saying they'll give you the best CPM on planet Earth. They may not be knocking on the door too much longer.
They may, though, just out of people not knowing better. I mean, I've apparently not, in the course of my lifetime, realized that, like, our vitamin industry is a joke. So, like, there's a callback to another thing, but, like, there's people that have become influenced by the way it used to be years ago, and that sort of propagates long after reality has set in. So there is always the chance that people making claims and promises will still get their foot in the door and grab a chunk of somebody's revenue.
Yeah. I was gonna sign with pretty much anybody who came a knocking back in the day. So I'm there with you. I think there's probably quite a few people who who would jump at the bit. But
they see that hand up as like a legitimizing force for themselves.
Yeah.
Whether or not those promises mean anything, it's like, oh, somebody recognized me. Let's see where this goes.
Did you guys? I signed a 60-40 on my first one. I don't know if you guys are willing to. Yeah, that's standard for.
The big thing was if you could negotiate down from like 5 years to 3 years to 2 years. Or if it was machinima indefinite.
Full screen tried to lock me in
they
for
stopped
another
doing
year. That was
Dude, when I first started, it was, like you guys are saying, is like TGS and machinima. Those were the two big ones. And I got jerked around a little bit when I was first starting out. In that I was sort of being courted to be with TGS. Because actually, Husky Starcraft, do you know him?
Yeah.
He actually is one of the people that made me want to do YouTube. I really liked him, and he reached out to me and was like, "Hey, you seem like you would fit for TGS. I could help, grease the wheels here since I'm one of the founding members." And it was a couple of months of me trying to do that, and that was when they started launching the RPM which is the under the umbrella for like the basically the shitheads, and so that was what I got to. But yeah, like it was a whole big mess of nonsense. So I don't know. I'm not too sad to see them go away if this is the end of an era.
Yeah.
Like if that's what it is, because a lot of the history.
I don't want to Yeah, we've got our share of stories, but I don't want to make it out to be like, yeah, fuck them, burn in hell, MCNs.
No, we were trying to prognosticate a little bit about what this means for the industry. That one of the big forces is kind of like downsizing in a huge way.
It's significant.
I think that's the real story more than anything. As much as it does suck, and I hate when people lose their jobs. That's always awful. But how does it affect everybody and viewers alike if this whole landscape changes a bit?
Yeah.
That's all.
Yep. There we go. All right. I'm going to talk... I believe I was the only one that played Bleed 2, right?
You are.
Okay, no problem. I'm going to talk about Bleed for a bit, because I like it a lot. Bleed 2 is a new shoot-'em-up arcade game. I did not play the first one, but I heard fairly good things about it. I saw this on Steam, and it looked like a blast, so I checked it out. And it is certifiably a blast. Guaranteed, back-of-the-box quote from BaerTaffy right there. So, as I said, arcade shoot-'em-up. The primary controls are the twin sticks. So you got your movement, left stick, you got your aiming the gun, right stick. And you've got a triple jump that you use with the right trigger. So at any point you can go bam, 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 and you can hit a wall and reset the jump. So there's a lot of mobility inherent in the game. And that makes for really cool... Like, the levels themselves are not that enticing as you're going through them. It's more of just you're going through the motions, knocking out normal enemies, and there's some interesting level design later on, but that's not really the focal point. What I actually loved about this game are the boss fights, which are pretty much all very unique and interesting. In fact, I don't think there was a boss fight that I disliked. They were all really fun. It's almost better suited as a boss rush, weirdly enough, than it is as, like, a full game. But yeah, it's a blast to play. The uniqueness of the bosses. There's a level, for example, where you're floating in space, and so it completely changes the gameplay, of course. And then the boss takes really good advantage of that, and actually is an entirely different boss fight as compared to the other ones, where you're of course affected by gravity. Then you've got some falling stages where you're battling somebody in midair, which is always fun. And then there's one in particular near the end that is this crawling boss where you have to destroy tiles ahead of you while also simultaneously dodging shots and shooting him. So it gets really hectic and crazy and satisfying as well. Like, very satisfying game to play. The controls take a little bit of getting used to, but once I got more familiar with it, I was feeling really awesome. Just jumping around and dancing and shooting. It was a good time. So yeah, Bleed 2, recommended quite a bit. They've got this boss rush mode as well, actually, weirdly enough, as I mentioned that. They've got this mode where you can select any of the 3 bosses from the game, put them all in a room, and fight against them simultaneously, which in their own definition is extremely unfair, but is also kind of fun. And the story mode, I will mention, is extremely short. It's like an hour to an hour and a half, so that's not the biggest selling point. However, one of the allures to it is once you play it through once in normal mode, you unlock these mutators and different loadouts. So you can play it again, try to get a higher score. They've got this score meter that shows up on the top right, and the idea is to get through the entire stage and boss without getting hit to get the best scores. So there's quite a bit of replay value, quite a bit of reason to go back and try to improve upon your previous attempt. So, yeah.
It's kind of like a Mega Man contract.
Jesus, yeah. Glad everyone's so excited about it.
What does the release of Bleed 2 mean for us as Twitch streamers and YouTubers?
That's a good question. Yeah, no, I think the overall community is going to feel the impact of this one pretty severely.
What network is it under, and does it have Twitch drops? Because otherwise, I mean, what's the point?
It's a good game, guys. It's a good video game. I like it a lot. I think y'all should check it out. Bleed 2. It's fun. It's $10. It's on Steam. And
that's cool.
Yeah. You said a mix of Contra and Mega Man, and I don't entirely disagree with that, actually.
Looks like it. There in the trailer, they had one guy who was like a walker, like the Ed 2409 or 209 or whatever from thing. But that also does look like one of the main enemies in Mega Man X. So perhaps some inspiration.
This is why I bring
from the intro stage.
What?
The intro stage.
Yeah, where they have the little electro balls that shoot on the ground and they shoot the missiles. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're cool.
The guy who has like a Dodge Caravan for a top half and then robot legs.
Yeah. Yeah, those guys.
I remember those guys. I actually played
cool.
Bleed 1 way back in the day.
Oh, you did? Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How'd you like it?
I thought it was pretty good, I think.
Okay.
That was one of those indie games, right? Like one of those indie games?
One of them indies.
Triple I.
Did you know that Bleed and Bleed 2 are made by a Canadian developer?
Ian Campbell.
There's got to be a newsletter, right? Like, it's the only way.
Did you know?
How did you know that Ian Campbell was Canadian? Did you just look that up now, or?
No. Wait, what other games are we talking about? Oxygen not included? Canadian developer.
Is Clay
You can't
Canadian?
get me on Hollow Knight. They're
Absolutely,
Australian.
The main character in Hollow Knight, though, is Canadian. Little known fact. All right. So that's Bleed 2. I like it a lot. It's a good time. Highly recommended. $10 on Steam. Came out a few weeks ago. Let's do Hollow Knight. Let's do it. Nick, you take it.
All right, I'm going to talk about Hollow Knight, but first, in following with the theme of the podcast, I'm going to talk about my taxes.
Okay.
Nice, yeah. All right, yeah.
That's a joke. I'm not actually going to do that. Just wanted to keep us in financially minded realm.
It. Yeah, thank you.
So Hollow Knight came out literally today, but I got a slightly early code and got to try it, and I spent about 4 hours with it last night. I also did a preview of it like a year ago, and I loved it then. I love it even more now. It's got so much polish, but I should probably start over and just say it's a Metroidvania game, 2D, hack and slash, exploration, a little bit of a Dark Souls influence, very atmospheric, and you play as a little bug with a sword, and it's awesome. It's the 4 hours I've played, I'm set to think this might be like top 2 or 3 favorite Metroidvanias ever.
Damn.
Maybe even my favorite.
Holy shit.
And that's right up there with Ori and the Blind Forest and Super Metroid. Like, it's really, really, really good. It might be huge as well, which I haven't played enough to know yet, but going from the collectibles, there's this huge badge menu, and there's like 50 ticks on it, and I've got like 5 so far in 4 hours.
Damn.
So I'm really excited to keep playing it. The polish level on this game is fantastic. The controls feel perfect to me. It's got one of those systems where the longer you hold A, the higher you jump, but as soon as you let off it, you stop immediately, which is great for precision.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a sword attack that can go left, right, up, or down, and it is completely responsive, and you hit to the degree that you want to hit. It all just feels very intuitive. Which is, great when the primary thing is combat and platforming, and you have very little leeway in terms of taking damage. It's got a death system where when you lose a life, you have to get back to where your death was, your soul's kind of, and fight a dark spirit of yourself, at which point it will restore your healing orb to be fully sized again, so you can get a full amount of heal orb ticks back, whereas you could have one less prior. And then you get all of your money back that you lost before you had died. Apparently it's got a ton of bosses spread out in different ways, and they seem like many of them are optional, I've noticed as well. I think only one of them has actually been required so far to progress the story. Huh. And I've just been meeting all different NPCs. They kind of go up to the top level of the world after you meet them, and then they join a town, which, again, sort of like Dark Souls. I absolutely love the art style. It's brilliant. It's just so lush. It's so deep. I don't know if it translates perfectly over video, but the game just has such a vibrancy to it. When I got to this mushroom area, I was just staring at it like slack-jawed because it's so beautiful. And, I'm the guy that loves Metroidvania and art, so, this game is exactly where I want it to be, and it's a pleasure to just play. I would love to have an interactive desktop of just some of the environments in this game that's just sitting there being what it is, because it's that pretty. I'm kind of at a loss for words to say what else about it that isn't just gushing, because I almost have no negative criticisms for it right now.
That's wonderful. Keep going.
So
Yeah,
you're telling me,
It's a pleasure.
you're telling me that that's a little bug and not a cute little bunny rabbit? Because that's what he looks like.
looks like
a
It's
little
a-
rabbit to me.
It's little horns.
Bunny bug.
I'm gonna say that he's a bunny rabbit.
Well, I mean, you're fighting nothing but other bugs, so
Well, rabbits fight bugs all the time.
tiny bug.
It took me.
Nick is not getting paid for this. Nick just really likes the game.
It took me a second to get acclimated to the art style. I was a little put off by the animation at first. I felt like it was a little choppy, but now that I am watching it more and more, I think that's actually sort of working to its advantage. Like the not necessarily 60 frames per second animation, but it is wonderful. It looks great, and the characters all kind of feel more lifelike, I guess. Well, not lifelike, but they feel
Stylistically coherent.
Yeah, I
Go with
like
that.
Yeah, that's good. And I love the I don't know what it is. This is a very specific thing, but I love the little green worm critters that you can save throughout the places.
Little caterpillars.
They're fucking adorable. It's great, but
The sound design is fantastic
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
All the little creatures make little very distinctive sounds, and a lot of them are very cute.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting dichotomy when the game is such a dark, macabre atmosphere most of the time. It's very dead and lifeless, except there's a lot of creatures that are still alive in this. And they use very tactile words, like you're just walking through the corpse of this former glorious city. It's like the corpse of a city that's been taken over by bugs. There's such interesting, artistic phrasing in that, I think.
yeah.
Also, really subtle little things that I noticed that probably not a lot of people would care about, but despite the game being incredibly layered and dense in terms of its sort of side-scrolling presentation, it's actually not one of the times when, and I've had this happen in a ton of other games, you have a difficulty discerning the foreground from the background. And I think a really nice subtle touch that they did was they gave the character a light aura that comes off, so you can see the silhouette of the edges around the interactable blocks. And it would be so easy to have those things blend into either the foreground or the background, but in this case, you feel very firmly grounded and rooted in what is the actual playable area of the game. So I've never had much of any issue knowing where I could and could not go in the landscape. And I know that seems like a super minor detail, but it actually is a huge part of why the game just feels really tight. It's very polished. And at the price, which is only $15, I almost can't see a single reason not to recommend this if you like this kind of game.
I'm gonna let.
I'm happy to keep talking, but
I'm gonna let the
I'll
plane keep going
go.
first.
Sorry. Yeah. You caught me on a day where they're routing over the house there.
Skype
so.
does not handle it nearly as well as Zoom. We apologize for that. But,
Yeah.
I do want to go back to the sound design because I think it's actually fantastic.
Yeah.
With a game like this, you wouldn't really think that they would put so much attention on that, but they really do. Just everything sounds fantastic, from the different sounds your character makes as you're walking across different textures and types of floors to
Materials,
to the way that you hit enemies, the way it responds when you get hit, I think is brilliant. The sort of loss of consciousness for a moment as the screen blacks and it's all muffled and dampened, and you have to kind of recover for a sec as you took the damage. So it really
It's
does
like you
a great
got
job with that.
concussed, and it sort of half deafens you for a moment, and it also does a freeze frame,
Yep.
which is just at the moment you get hit, and only for 50 milliseconds. It hits perfectly. It just feels like there's an impact to it. But yeah, they nailed so many different elements of this that I'm just incredibly excited to see how deep this game goes. In 4 hours, like, I was enthralled, and I didn't want to stop. I was just so tired I had to.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to be playing more of it tonight. I can't wait.
That's great.
It looks gorgeous.
It does. It's you noted on your stream that you thought it was even better looking than Ori, and
In a slightly different way.
Right,
I wouldn't
yeah.
say that better is the right way to classify it, but I like the art style to it maybe a bit more than I do Ori's, and I loved Ori.
Yep.
Ori is probably one of the most beautiful games that exists. But I actually think this one feels slightly more coherent in its art style and more consistent across the board. Maybe not as vibrant, but it hits these certain notes, and the way the colors transition, it's just so pretty.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very subjective thing, granted, but it's just a personal thing for me that they just nailed an element I really like.
the music is fantastic as well. Excellent from what I've heard so far. Yeah, I've only experienced this vicariously. I definitely plan on playing it myself, but man, it is certainly looking great. Good stuff.
I want to play it too.
Mm-hmm.
It does seem really cool and gorgeous. I'm not super into Metroidvanias, or at least not nearly as much as you, Nick. But I mean, it looks like a cool game. I did really like Guacamelee too, which is a Metroidvania, right?
Yeah.
So
How'd you like Guacamelee, Nick?
Yeah.
Did you play that?
I actually never did, believe it or not.
Huh. You should.
I know, I'm missing out. I played it at a PAX demo once, and I never actually got to play the full game. I think I have like 3 different copies of it, but I've never actually played it through.
You got the Freedom Bundle, man.
Guacamelee is really good,
It's real
man.
good.
I know.
Yeah,
I
it is.
never doubted it. I just didn't get around to it is all.
It's fun.
It's
Sorry,
also made by
Drinkbox.
Drinkbox Studios,
Yeah.
Where are they
Something
based out
Canadian.
of?
Toronto.
All right.
Yeah.
Am I wrong in assuming, because I don't play a lot of Metroidvanias, Guacamelee is a slightly more linear Metroidvania than the traditional fare? Or am I super not right about that?
I mean, it's kind of a difficult argument to make because it's got its share of different paths to take, but it's not
True,
It's
yeah.
not nearly as open as probably something like Hollow Knight, for example. I'm sure. But anyway, that's Guacamelee, which is available on Steam.
2 thumbs up for Hollow Knight. Check it out if you like Metroidvanias.
I agree. I'm definitely gonna pick it up myself. All right. Hey, Ryan, you want to talk? No?
What do you want me to
About
talk
Oxygen Not Included.
Yeah, Oxygen Not Included is the ant farm style colony creation and equilibrium game from Clay. Maybe it has studios or games at the end. I don't remember. Basically, you're inside of like this asteroid, and it's like a diorama style RimWorld. You try to make a colony, but instead of doing it top down, you're like looking at them inside of this little dirt palace that they create for themselves. And the thing that separates it from a game like RimWorld or from a game like Factorio, like I feel like all those games have like their own theme. Like the theme of RimWorld is raids, in my opinion. There's other stuff, and the theme in Factorio is automation. And the theme in Oxygen Not Included is that it's like fluid dynamics. So you're having to deal with things like human waste, and it all plays into the cycle of the colony that's around you. So, for example, you have colonists. You're in a closed environment. The colonists breathe oxygen and exhale CO2. You can't breathe CO2, so eventually the whole environment is going to fill up with CO2 if you don't do anything about it. So you got to get something to produce oxygen. Maybe you put down like some algae terrariums. Algae terrariums produce oxygen by consuming CO2 and algae. And then you're like, okay, we got to find a way to get more algae. Meantime, your dude is like, I got to shit myself or I'm going to die. So you make a little toilet and he poops in that. That makes contaminated air. You got to do something about this contaminated air that's not carbon dioxide. You make something that takes contaminated air and pushes out real oxygen as a result. And it's a whole thing. Basically, you scale up through this tech tree and eventually get to the point where you want to have a system that's in like complete equilibrium. Like you have water that gets pumped into a reservoir in your base. You use that water to produce oxygen. You breathe the oxygen, make CO2. The CO2 gets consumed by plants and makes more oxygen. You know, you take a poop in the toilet, it flushes contaminated water, and then from the reservoir, it gets clean water. And, you know, you basically just try to make it to the point where like you last long enough so that everybody doesn't die, I guess is the whole thing, and die in like terrible ways, because like getting your arm chopped off by a raider is one thing, but like suffocating to death slowly on your own shit gas is like actually a much more imposing and like existential terror sort of thing for me.
I'm surprised you'd want to put your wife in the middle of all that.
Exactly. It's I really like it, and I think it actually has the potential to Trojan horse people into understanding these colony games, because unlike all of the other ones, no offense meant to RimWorld and Factorio, but it actually like looks approachable.
Yep.
And that I think is going to serve it very well. And again, Clay just apparently is incapable of making a game that is not good. So this one's out, and it's also like really great, in my opinion.
That was the big point I wanted to make, is that as someone who has been turned off by games like RimWorld, by games like Quadrilateral Cowboy to a certain extent, then games like Factorio after 30 hours, give me a little credit on that one. But this, it absolutely, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the way that it's presented visually, or if it's the simplification of processes early on. But it definitely hit the nail on the head as far as making an approachable colony management game. And I started off with this. As I was playing it for the first 15 to 20 minutes or so, I kind of got that same feeling that I would get with RimWorld and games like that, where I'd think to myself, what the hell am I doing? I've got all these different options. I'm completely overstimulated, overwhelmed with choice. There's a cat in a box. And
cute.
I didn't know how to handle myself. But with Oxygen Not Included, I was able to slowly and progressively figure it out. And I've never really had that connection made with the other games, but with this one, I somehow it clicked. It just works. I like it quite a bit.
I've put in. Well, I don't know. Let me check here. Actually, I'm kind of curious. I don't know how many hours I have in it now. I have 15, which translates to 3 different colonies now, and it definitely is. In these types of games, you have to go in expecting that you're going to be bad when you start, because what's going to happen is you're going to realize things as your colony starts falling apart, and you're like, I know how to fix that next time.
Right.
And it's all about look at this stupid cat.
He's just so happy.
The framing is so perfect, man.
Yeah, my cat. But anyway, so it's all about prioritization of immediate goals, and I know that maybe doesn't sound really fun, but that is really fun. Like prioritizing, like knowing, all right, I need to get this water right now so that I can get these algae farms working. I need just enough algae to keep everybody breathing so that I can have enough to go get my my liquid pump working out of the contaminated water and turn that into clean water and stuff. And all the while you're managing your gas and your stress levels and stuff. And I don't know, it's a lot of fun. I've been playing a lot of it. It is an alpha though right now,
right?
So
yes.
That's important to note. And with that, you should know that the world is actually finite right now. I don't know if the intention is to make it infinite, but
Lucas just staring at Ryan. It's just so cute.
It's awfully distracting, man.
It's like he's part of the show. He's just right there sitting.
Decided I want to be on the podcast
in the corner, popping his head over.
But yeah, it's really fun.
You're totally right about the immediate prioritization, and that is you're kind of constantly towing the line of mortality with your duplicants, where you've got enough to get by, but you're filling their entire space with carbon dioxide and contaminated oxygen, and you're like, okay, well I know this looks bad, but I've got this one thing that I think is going to fix it, so I'm going to go focus on this. I'm going to get this done, and then you fix that, and it's like, okay, that created 4 new problems, so I have to go immediately solve that. I have to go fix the runoff that is filling my research center with poop water, and all this different stuff. So the systems work really well together too. I like that quite a bit. I also like the way that water interacts with the world. It has this weird stickiness with it right now where it will grab onto tiles in very interesting ways, but it's actual God damn it.
He just looks up and is like, I'm a cat.
I'm a cat.
Meow.
The ways that water interact with the world, like, for example, I dug out a pit next to a reservoir, and there was only sand blocking the path from the reservoir to the empty hole. And as I dug through, once the sand was the only block left, the water actually began to slowly permeate through the wall. And I was like, whoa, that's interesting. I wonder if that's going to break through and create another pool of water. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. It was really cool. I like those sorts of things where, like, logically you think to yourself, all right, like, if I were to do this in real life, it probably wouldn't work out very well. But this is a video game, so I can get away with it. But they're like, no, man, you left a block of, like, a small amount of sand was separating these two things. It's going to come apart. Yeah.
It models some actual, like, real life stuff. I watched a stream of the developers where they said, like, will it teach you chemistry better? Sorta, but, like, it's not. It's a game at the end of the day. But, like, there are some things, like, you have to understand. Like, one of the most basic things you have to understand in that game is well, one, it's really all about gas management and managing where different gases are going, and the first thing and the main thing is that you got to know that oxygen rises and carbon dioxide falls.
Right.
So that, you know, leads to different layouts for your base and stuff.
Let's give it a second.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. It's like it's in your house, man. Fuck.
This is the silliest podcast.
This is a ridiculous
Planes
show,
going
man.
by, there's cats looking around.
It was very serious for the first hour, and all of a sudden it's just gone completely off the rails. Man.
This is a silly kitty.
He's a silly kitty.
I haven't played Oxygen Not Included, but it looks all right.
Mm-hmm.
Looks more accessible to me than RimWorld, which was, like, way over my head. Although I thought Factorio was completely over my head and found out that it's only over my head after about 40 hours of it.
Yep. Mine's 30.
Well, no, like, that is one of those things, is, like, I think Factorio, especially, like, even me, before we started playing it, I was even though I like management games and stuff, I was just like, this doesn't look that pretty. I don't know if I want to jump in. It looks really complicated. Yeah. I don't know if I want to jump in and do this learning curve. But, like, you know, Clay has the Clay art style, and it's just like, oh, this looks cute. This looks, a little Wes Anderson-y, a little Tim Burton-y. Let's jump in. Let's play this. And then, you know, you find out it's pretty deep.
They got this thing about, like, these sort of nonsense machines. They all, like, all the Clay games seem to have these sort of steampunky looking machines that just sort of do a thing. And they don't, like, intrinsically explain what that thing is. You figure it out through context. Mm-hmm. But when you look at a base in a game like that, you just see all these gyrating silver structures, like, slamming apart and banging around.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at face value, none of that makes sense to me, which is why I get intimidated by it. Like, you have to understand it's an iterative process.
Yeah.
Starting from clean the water to, like, whatever the end goal is. And also, can you win that game, or is it just not done yet?
Not yet. No,
okay.
not.
Will it be winnable?
I wonder if it'll be in the sense of Don't Starve, where it's just, you know, literally see how long you can go. But
well, so right now in the game, again, it's alpha. Like, right now in the game, like I was saying, it is finite. So there is like, playing through 3 colonies, I've learned that there is sort of a there's an upper limit to how far you can get, like, and you know when that's going to end because you can see the biomes around you. So, like, at first you're going to have the algae to make your oxygen for you, and then you just look so incredulous at me. It's just like,
I look so happy.
But anyway,
I'm
so
part marshmallow.
so you start, so like you got to get the algae to make your oxygen early on, and then later on you realize that the algae's running out and there's no more algae left, so you have to get the slime, and the slime turns into the algae
Did you
to
guys,
make your oxygen.
Were you
But
guys
once you run
constantly
out of
running out of
oxygen-
algae early on? Sorry to interrupt, but I was just like that
My
was
tip
a
to
huge
you-
problem for me.
My tip to you is you were probably using the oxidizers, right? The first one, the oxygen thing, the first one that you get.
Yeah.
Right now, in my opinion, some people disagree with me, but I don't think. Honestly, just only go algae terrariums. There's no reason. It burns, the oxidizers burn through so much algae that you don't have enough time to set up the biodistillers to do stuff. But again, it's an alpha, so like that probably is gonna change eventually. But yeah, no, pretty much only go terrariums. Also, right now, I've seen on the subreddit, like, people can breathe contaminated oxygen. So you can have infinite oxygen if you just power your base with slime, and because there's not many diseases in the game yet, it's not that big of a deal for them to be breathing the contaminated oxygen, which is just toxic air. So
Yeah. Right on. Good kitties. You like the game then, Ryan, yeah?
Yeah, I think it's really good. There's a long way to go, but there's also it's early in development, but I am worse at it than its stage in development. Basically, like I have to become better before it'll be relevant that there's not that much game there.
I see. Okay.
Because I've only done the one colony, and it was just a garbage fire. Like, it's so bad. I got corpses everywhere, and like people are just stress vomiting on top of each other. Like, it's a nightmare. But hopefully, we'll get there in the future. We'll see what happens.
Well, like I was saying, it's one of those games where like you're just gonna get better every time you start a colony. So like if you see the difference between my colony 1 and my colony 2 and my colony 3, it's like night and day. My most recent colony is just like crazy looking compared to the first one that I made.
Yeah.
So
there's a mechanic that will take care of those corpses for you. I don't know if you've come across it yet, but it's there.
You mean like a gravestone?
No, there's a.
You eat them.
I don't know if it's a spoiler, but there's like that little alien that'll show up. Have you
It
seen
doesn't take care of the corpses.
It doesn't?
It spawns from the corpses and spreads disease everywhere.
Oh, I thought it was. That's a different thing then. I had a completely different understanding of that mechanic. Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Oxygen not included. It is not. You cannot buy it directly through Steam yet for some reason. However, the alpha is. You can now.
Yeah, but it's not on the main page.
Yeah. So you have to.
So it's.
Well, you can go there now. Like, they listed it so you can access the alpha from their Steam page. You just have to go to there and then click on the banner, and that'll take you to the place where you can purchase it. But you can also go to the Oxygen Not Included subreddit, which is oxygennnotincluded.reddit.com, and they have a sticky up there where you can buy it as well. It's officially Clay sanctioned now, I believe, at this point. They are allowing people to buy the game and play. So, there you go. Oxygen Not Included. It's real good. It's real good.
It's a good game.
And that will bring us into everyone's favorite segment. It is time for the cops to come, because you're busted, buddy.
Yeah.
It's time for Ask Roundtable, the weekly segment wherein you send your questions to roundtableyt@gmail.com, and we do our best to answer them. This week's question comes from Martin. Martin says, let me get the full email up here, actually. It says, hi, Bear. Congrats on the 100K. Thanks, Martin. Do you have any memories of playing video games with your parents? What games would you recommend for parents to play with their little kids/teenagers? Let's go with the first one first. Let me hear some cute stories. You guys got video games with your parents' memories you want to share?
My mom played Tetris all the time, and she got pretty good at it.
Yeah?
My dad and I played Myst together for a while. That was kind of fun. I think that's like a dad and kid game.
Absolutely.
Even though it's like incomprehensible when you're a kid, it's just like completely opaque.
That's why you have to play it with your dad, so you can actually make sense of anything that's going on.
I'd always try and get my mom to play Mega Man, but she was not very good at it because it's very hard.
Mm-hmm.
Mega Man's still hard to this day, though.
He's got a song request for you, by the way, Ryan. Let me get this in your head right now. He's got either "Land Down Under" by Men at Work or "My Way" by Limp Bizkit.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
It can be done.
Cool. Rob, you got any playing with the parents memories?
Yeah, actually, my mom is who got me into video games in the first place.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah, my first console was a Super Nintendo when I was a kid, and I still remember playing Link to the Past with her. In fact, when I play Zelda, you get to name your character. I still name it the same thing that I named it, that we named it when I was a kid playing with her, which is Koo. Except it's KOOOOOOOO because we couldn't figure out how to hit the confirm button. So it's a bunch of it's K and a bunch of O's.
Oh, it's cute.
So yeah, cool. So that's what I do when I play Zelda. But yeah, no, I played Link to the Past, Mega Man, all that stuff. She got me into video games. I play with her all the time. So
that's fucking adorable, man. I love that.
Yeah, she hasn't played video games much anymore, but mainly because she only wants to buy Nintendo systems, and they've sucked recently. So she hasn't, no joke, she hasn't been able to play because she doesn't want to boot up the Wii U and stuff and get it working. So, but yeah.
Yeah. Any from you, Ryan?
My parents also played a lot of Tetris. I didn't really play with them though. I didn't really like it that much. It was more like once every 3 months. I'd be like, "Hey, Mom or Dad, you want to play this with me?" And they play a game, and they'd be like, "It's not really my thing." But then we got them they bought their own Xbox 360, and then my dad called me and was like, "Hey, I want a golf game. What should I get for this?" And I was like, "I don't know, Tiger Woods 2007."
That's all there is.
So for their Xbox 360. They have Ace Combat whatever for some reason, and then they have Tiger Woods 2007, and then they have Dance Central because my mom was like, "Hey, well, how's that Kinect thing? That looks like it could be cool for exercise." So we got them one, and then they never played it, which is fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I played a ton of Myst and Riven with my pops back in the day, and there was I mentioned this recently as well, that my dad got not only into Pokemon Go for quite some time, but also The Witness. When I had him play that, he was super interested in playing that one. So
Nice.
yeah. But the second part here, games you'd recommend for parents to play with their little kids and teenagers. I think Tiger Woods PGA Tour, my dad got that too, so I think that's just a dad game. That might be what is allowing that franchise to sustain profitability is every dad in the world. But
my dad plays video games, or he played video games casually just for fun and stuff. But whenever we'd go to GameStop, he's notoriously frugal, and he would pretty much only play Madden. So he would go to the bargain bin, and it'd be 2005, and he'd be like, "Oh, you know what? I'll pick up Madden 2002 because it's on sale." Yeah. And I don't care. It's just for $2, and it's come on, Dad, come on, man, just what are you doing here, buddy?
I think that's no. You know what? I'm with Dad on that one. If you don't care about current rosters, that's a savings, man. That's a good deal.
Yeah.
I guess
the only series you could get for 49 cents at GameStop was the old Maddens.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. So
you should
Games
play
with your kids.
Yeah.
You should play Minecraft with your kids.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Planet Coaster would be.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's a great one.
It shows me a window into each of our parenting styles, where you guys are give them a game that has you can have fun with it. I'm nah, get them started in problem solving early, and then when they get older, they're gonna know how to solve problems implicitly from doing this stuff.
Then play Factorio.
Yeah, no, I think you should have your kid play Factorio.
When they hit,
actually,
you go
on.
You go.
No, you go.
No, you go. No, you go.
No.
When they hit 8
Somebody
years old,
go.
when they hit 8 years old, that's when you introduce them to Shenzhen IO. You gotta get that.
Right,
it's a good progression, right? You got Minecraft at 6, you got Factorio at 7. By the time they're 9, they're C++ software engineers. It's all just working out for them.
Actually, though, no joke, I would recommend, if you are into them, games like EU4 or CK2 or something. Like, for real. Like, I'm not even saying that ironically. My little brother, I got into EU4 when he was a little kid, and he was super into it. So, you know, just like me when I was a lad playing Europa Universalis 3. So, you know.
There's probably like a cocktail of the right games that you could put together that would like supplement school curriculum perfectly.
Civilization 2 taught me everything I know about history and ancient politics.
Space Chem for science.
EU4
EU
for
for
geography.
history.
Yeah.
Yeah, and history,
Geography, absolutely, yeah.
Engineering and Planet Coaster.
Engineering?
Yeah, little kids have to learn engineering. It's very important.
No, but I'm more like, how does Planet Coaster teach you?
Oh, it teaches you about velocity and momentum and making people sick and why G-forces snap their necks.
Teaches them how to be afraid of roller coasters.
Of death, yeah.
Yeah,
I
of
understand
death and
that
roller
one.
coasters, yeah.
See, we've got... We've
Project
got,
Golf with your friends
so
as well.
that
That's a
we've
fun
got
game.
the math, we got the geography, we got the fear of death instilled in them at an early age. Here we go. We got a fully rounded set of courses
Kerbal
for video
Space
game
Program.
university.
Okay, yeah.
Kerbal Space Program,
It's-
absolutely.
You know what would be a great experiment is don't teach a kid any language at all and just hand him a bunch of video games and see how much of humanity he can parse out from it. Like, just put him in an empty room for his whole life and he just has a bunch of different video games and see if he can figure stuff
Put a
out.
camera on him and never talk to him.
Yeah.
Right,
Just
yeah, exactly.
like so you don't pollute the pool of influence there.
Yeah, I want to see this human experiment. I'm glad that this Ask Roundtable turned into that.
Getting back to the original question, I feel a little bad that we turned your child into an experiment. So sorry about that.
You shouldn't play games with them. What you should do is put them in a bubble and force them to play games by themselves to figure out how they develop over the course of years.
Golf with your friends. That's a nice game.
Yeah, but I honestly do consider, I do suggest something like an EU4 or some complex management game like that. When I was a kid, like, that was the kind of thing, I mean, granted, I'm biased since I like them now when I'm an adult too, but like, I don't know, I think it's good to learn how to manage a bunch of different resources and make them work in the proper order. I think it's a good, learning experience. And plus, it teaches you history and geography and stuff lightly.
Hell yeah.
Is Portal too much for a kid to play, or is that like appropriate?
Dude.
I think that's appropriate.
It's kind of like maniacal though. Like the theme of it is kind of like screwed up.
You worry that it's going to turn your child into a
rogue
deleterious
AI.
artificial intelligence agent?
It's mostly just like the falling onto spikes and all that kind of stuff is a little bit dramatic when you're young.
I don't know. I watched Hellraiser when I was like 6.
I mean, so did I, but like I don't recommend it. Out of This World scarred me for like 15 years. That black beast that would sit up on the ledge and look at you when you started and were jumping over those little slugs, and they would come running at you. You had to jump on the vines. That thing scared the hell out of me.
Dude, I don't know what movie it was, but maybe you guys do, that I watched when I was pretty young and it scarred me, but the scene was there was a woman deep underneath the ocean floor, right? So they've got like this research laboratory or something that's like on the bottom of the ocean, and she goes out
Inside.
No, she goes out and walks out, and she's amidst like this school of jellyfish, and she's observing it, and she's like, "Oh my god, it's beautiful. They're all so orchestrated." And then they start swarming in on her, and then they fucking kill her. And the jellyfish, they were our enemies the whole time. Did anybody watch this?
Ryan knew.
That kind of sounds like one of the stories from the old Creepshow movie.
I think it might have been Queen Latifah, actually. That was the actress.
That was
Talking
murdered by
about
the
Great Big
jellyfish.
Sea?
What was that?
That was Sphere? Chat's saying Sphere. I don't think that was Sphere.
Sphere?
Oh
Sphere.
yeah, no, it's the one with Ed Harris where he puts on the helmet of the perfluorocarbons that he can breathe. It's that movie.
That's The Abyss, yeah.
The Abyss.
Oh,
That's
it's
the one,
Abyss.
right?
Hold
That's
on.
it.
Here's
Yeah,
the
that's
one where they go like to the bottom of the ocean, lose their minds, and then start killing each other, right?
Yep.
Yeah, there's that sphere.
Yep, that's the Abyss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the one that Bear's talking about is the Abyss.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
remember that now. Yeah, I remember when the jellyfish all come and they fucking murder the shit out of her
Yeah,
and you
dude.
see her body. Yeah, that was fucked up. That scared me a bit when I was a kid
I
too.
was like, they're our friends.
Mhm.
That's not what they should be doing. Maybe it wasn't Queen Latifah. Maybe I might have been mistaken about that. But anyway, Thanks for the Ask Roundtable question. Glad we got a chance to talk about the Abyss again on the show. And let's move on to everybody's favorite segment after their favorite segment. It's Nick's Weird Games.
Yes, that'd be like to the tune of My Way by Limp Bizkit. That would be like, yeah. We're gonna give you a Nick's Weird Game. It's got an anglicized Japanese name. Here's a Nick's Weird Game, and it comes with the name, something like that.
All right, baby, that's good.
I like it.
It's
like
good.
It.
Nick's Weird Games. Hide your chats.
All right.
So Nick's Weird Game's a game where we guess a game. That's
Yes.
what we do. I give you hints, and you figure out what it is. Today's is a DS game coming from the year of 2006. Developed by a Grasshopper manufacturer and published by Atlas in North America. And in Japan, Marvelous Entertainment, who I don't think I've even heard of. It's a role-playing game. And the story begins as a scientist known as the Professor flees through space from a mysterious enemy known only as the Cosmonauts, spelled with an N-O-T-S at the end. Stands for Cosmic Nihilist Organization for Terror.
That's really good.
He crash lands on a strange planet, losing the cells that power his ship. Without power, he's stranded. He enlists the help of Terry, a young boy. Terry agrees to help the Professor by exploring the planet and locating the cells. And that's kind of the general gist of it. Things get more and more weird, and eventually you start to not trust the Professor as much, and the game breaks the fourth wall a little bit. Chat's already gotten it.
Damn, dude. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Is it Sphere?
No, it's the Abyss. No, it's
Okay. Gotcha.
Published by Atlas. We're going through a lot of Atlas.
yeah. That's what I do. I collect Atlas games.
Nick's
There
Weird
are
Atlas
like a
games.
million.
Yeah. So the battle mode is kind of unique in that it goes on autopilot. Speaking of,
Excuse me?
I just said autopilot, so yeah. When you get into a fight, the character just starts fighting for you, and you use these stickers to try and augment the battle to go in your favor, but you don't fight directly.
Super Godzilla for the Super Nintendo.
No.
I just really like cosmonauts as an acronym. Or like part of the word is an acronym. How did that work?
They capitalize the part that's the acronym. It was Grasshopper
Haze an
Manufacturer's first RPG on the DS. Amazing.
Grasshopper Manufacturer.
Yeah.
That's their name?
Yep.
Is that a... Oh, it's probably a Japanese company, isn't it?
Features a former Square graphic designer.
Prominent
Contributor to the Shining Soul series.
I am like... I think I've checked out on this one.
Features an Apple IIe-esque style font and typography style. And some 8-bit mini-games.
There it is. That sent off the trigger in my brain. The font. I remember now. I remember.
It's little bits and pieces you put together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a no
Synapses
then.
are firing. I'm out.
I have no idea.
Throw it in the towel. What do you got?
What if I told you it was produced by Takeshi Ogura?
Oh, of course.
Oh, well,
Takeshi Ogura.
That's Contact on the DS.
What?
That's Contact on the DS.
Yeah, it is. Why did you know that all of a sudden?
Apparently, Takeshi Ogura was just the thing that he needed.
Hey,
it
look
is.
at that. Yeah, wow. I knew that information would come in handy one day. I knew that one day I'd be able to pull
I guess
back.
I'm really glad that I mentioned Takeshi Ogura then, because
Yeah,
I didn't
that's
think
great
you were
answer.
going to get it, but turns out you knew all along.
Why did Takeshi Ogura do it for
It
you, out of
didn't.
curiosity?
I pulled up Grasshopper Manufacturer. I was curious.
Oh.
Yeah. It was
Yeah,
like,
this
hey,
game is
they have a
actually
very
pretty
short
fun.
list.
I would like to go back and
Nice.
finish it one day.
Mhm.
Let me look at... I think the person who nailed it first in chat scrolled off, but the person I see here is Mookanu, and I like saying their name, so
That's
that's
a good
fun. Mookanu.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's like Mimikyu from Pokemon.
It actually is Mimikyu from
Oh.
Pokemon.
Okay, that makes sense, actually. So,
Sweet. Sorry for stealing your reveal on that one.
That's okay. Has anybody even heard of this game at all?
No, I never had. Not at all.
Okay.
No, I have no idea.
I'll take the point, though. If
Yeah, no,
if you want to
absolutely.
give that to
I'll
me.
flip a coin.
All right, cool.
It also was Sphere, the 90s
That's true. That was
film.
fair.
What is with the 90s and having movies of people under the water getting attacked by aliens? Like, what's that about?
We
They also had
to-
Terror from the Deep, XCOM, as well, or maybe that might have been the 80s, but still, like, what happened there?
Underwater films are very good for production budget because it means you can shoot a whole film in a very small area and not have to show any like sweeping landscapes.
Yeah, that's true.
Didn't think about that. Hey, everybody. We're all done. Thanks for watching another episode of Roundtable Live. We appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. We had some laughs. We had some serious
Cats.
discussions. But, we did have some cats as well. We had quite a bit of cat today. That was good.
Yeah, he's gone now.
Oh, man.
Oh, that's sad.
I think he got tired of me fucking with him.
I think he was welcoming it at first.
Yeah, but then like I activated his like base instincts, I think, and who knows
Has
what's
a very
going on now.
contrarian, yeah.
Yeah.
He became
Exactly.
a catfish for a second, or a fish cat, I guess, technically, since a catfish is a thing. Right? You're just like,
Hey,
is
Rob, where
happening
can
in
people
chat right
find
now?
you?
I'm AlpacaPatrol everywhere, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. You could find me in all of those places. Twitter for announcements and stuff, YouTube for the videos, which right now is Factorio and Tournament of Shame, and then on Twitch, stream almost every goddamn day. Been streaming a lot of Oxygen Not Included, actually, too. And so, yeah, it's a good time.
You find him piloting planes in his downtime. Really good to have that convenience there.
It only happens some days, okay? Not all the time.
Yeah, it didn't happen last week. Is it just... You said... He
Sometimes
said...
it's-
What did you say? That they're going through... They're rerouting or something or other?
Yeah, like not every day. They don't route over my house every day, but sometimes they do for I don't know whatever reason.
Just to
Maybe it's some
fuck
kind
with
of
you.
crosswind or something. Yeah, basically, I don't know. they route them over my house sometimes.
Dope.
So
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching this episode of Roundtable Live. We really appreciate it. You can catch us every Friday here on twitch.tv/Roundtable Podcast. That is airing Fridays at 3 o'clock Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Eastern. You can catch the show discussion over on our subreddit, roundtablepodcast.reddit.com. You can follow us on Twitter at RoundtablePC. Want to give a special shout out to our patrons over on patreon.com/roundtable. By the way, thank you very much for keeping keeping the support going over on Patreon. Really appreciate that. We've got Julian Avelsgaard. You mean I can just put stuff here and Bear will say whatever I want? Thank you, Jonathan Graham, as well. Scotty119, Joseph Boss, Penn Gillette, Michael Bush Larson, Talks to Wall, TJ Majesty, Chaos Push It to the Limit Theorist. That's a callback. I like that. Colby Klein, Greenlight, Oren Saltzman, Christopher Flagg, Eric Schooley, Brizzlebrit, Positron, Mythscare, Mediocrities, Justin Smurfett, and Logan Ray. Thank you guys very, very much. And again, if you want to go over there, throw us $2 or $3 a month. We really, really appreciate that as well to keep the show going. Thank you all for watching. We will see you next week. Same time, same place. Thank you for being here. Let me get the music. It's almost ready. There it is. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Later.